Blog Talk Radio.
What I've left behind here once again. I'm locked up in memories, they all intertwine. The memories in my mind. I know tomorrow, 'cause that dawn will come. You will never know just what you have done.
Well, good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the Stop Child Abuse Now talk radio show sponsored by NAASCA, which stands for the National Association of Adult Survivors of Child Abuse. Today is Tuesday, December 27th, 2022. My name is Penelope Bennis, and I am from Sarasota, Florida. I am an adult survivor of child abuse, and with me on my host team this evening is my co-host, a NAASCA family member, Annie Marcus from California. And we are really excited to welcome you this evening to our show tonight. The type of show we have is called a Survivor Professional focused show. It uses an open mic forum, and we feature a Survivor Professional co-host who will field a topic that we have discussed that is relevant to NAASCA's mission. So I'll tell you a little bit more about our Survivor Professional, Pastor Deborah Schleif, in a moment. And we are very grateful to have her as an NAASCA family member and as our Survivor Professional on these shows about once a month. But before we tell you a little bit more about Pastor Deborah, we want to talk about NAASCA's mission because, as you know, NAASCA is all about child abuse trauma, prevention, intervention, and recovery. If you'd like to join us this evening on our show, it is an open mic format. You are welcome to call in and be a member of the panel. There is no experience necessary. We invite anyone who is interested to come on. The way to participate tonight is simply to dial the following number, area code 646-595-2118. Again, that number is area code 646-595-2118. And my co-host Annie will greet you on our back line and welcome you into the show. You'll have an opportunity to ask a question or pose a question or a comment regarding the subject matter to Pastor Deborah. So please call in. We encourage you to participate in the show. It makes for a really good show, and it feels topics brought up by you specifically. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about NAASCA's mission because we have a single purpose at NAASCA. It's to address issues related to childhood sexual abuse and trauma, including sexual assault, violent or physical abuse, emotional traumas and neglect, and we do so with two goals. The first, educating the public, especially as related to helping society get over its taboo of discussing childhood sexual abuse, abbreviated CSA, presenting facts showing child abuse to be a pandemic, worldwide problem that affects everyone, and the second goal of offering hope and healing through so many different paths, such as these shows, providing many services to adult survivors of child abuse and information for anyone interested, and the many issues involving prevention, intervention, and recovery. So please join us in our mission by becoming a panel member on the show tonight. The number to call in is area code 646-595-2118. So you may be asking yourself if it's the first time you've listened to a Survivor Professional open mic type show. I will go into some more detail. So we feature a Survivor Professional co-host who fields topics brought to the episode by you, the listener. And our special guest and co-host tonight is Pastor Deborah Spike. And a little bit about Pastor Deborah. She grew up all over the world in a military family where her mother was mentally ill. And Pastor Deborah is now a Survivor Professional. She lives in Pensacola, Florida. She's trained in ministry, mental health, working with substance abuse, and is a trauma-informed social worker, all in one. She wears many hats. She volunteers with many community organizations. And Pastor Deborah says she can minister by text, phone, Skype, in person, and however the Lord directs her 24/7. She teaches that humans have three parts of being of spirit, soul, and the physical body, and believes that all three are important and that each one needs care. And, as an aside, we look forward to Pastor Deborah being an active member of the NAASCA family for a very long time. So on these episodes, we welcome various co-hosts, Survivor Professionals who will assist in fielding questions and lead a variety of topics suggested by our call-in participants. The trauma-informed perspectives of Survivor Professionals will help them guide discussions on the issues of child abuse, trauma, and healthy human sexuality that spring from questions and topics brought to us by our listeners. Everyone's invited to engage on tonight's show. So without further ado, again, we encourage you to call in, area code 646-595-2118. I'm going to unmute Pastor Deborah's line. And Pastor Deborah, just welcome to the show. And I know that we talked about a topic this evening of discussing healing modalities and what has worked as survivors of adult survivors of child abuse. So I'm going to turn it over to you to kick off our discussion, and thank you for being with us.
Well, I'm very happy to be here. I made it through that storm, that cold stuff. One of the things I've been lately watching these historical Chinese dramas, and what they show is that when a child is orphaned, has trauma of any kind, a lot of violence in their life in these movies, they grow up with some very horrible emotional problems. A lot of hate, revenge, anger, jealousy, and cause a lot of problems for a lot of other people. And it was, then there would be something in there. They would find somebody that loved them. And that all that ick that was there from dissipated, and they changed, and they became loving people, and the memories sort of went away. So my question to people is, when you've been abused as a child, does anybody know exactly what needs to be healed? That would be number one question. Number two is, does anybody have any kind of a surety from any kind of treatment modality that what they need healing from or for can be done? As we know, if you had cancer, and they have to determine what kind of cancer you have and where is the cancer and how far along it is. And so they do a lot of testing to find that out, and then they have done a lot of treatment, whether it's chemo or if it's radiation or if it's surgery, then more chemo. And a lot of people, they come out and they are pretty much, things are taken care of. Other people, it doesn't. But they know, the doctors have a protocol for, if we know that you have this problem, this is the direction. And if it doesn't work, we'll try something else. And they stay with you for years and years and years. But in adult survivors of sexual abuse, I know telling your story is very important, okay? And it maybe like pulls the scab off of something, and it can freely breathe and that kind of thing. But then what happens? Where does a survivor, what direction do they go in? Do they go the spiritual route? Do they go the mental health route? If they get in the mental health route, do they have a plan? Do their therapists? So as a person who's had childhood sexual abuse, I don't know if when they are going through the system of foster care or reunification with their family members, if there's anybody says, look, you've had this, here's a treatment plan, here's a modality, here's a way. You're going to have some memory issues, you're going to have some trigger issues, probably going to have some other health issues, and we need to take on each one of those areas, and we have found, some professional, I would think, that to work and bring healing to this area of you, we need to follow this plan of treatment. So I wanted to just bring it up to see what people thought, if they kind of can help other people say, hey, I went and got hypnotized. And I had a lot of unconscious stuff going on, and a lot of those memories have disappeared. And I don't have them anymore. And another person may have said, hey, I did this. I did a 6 weeks cleansing or something. And I don't get triggered anymore when a word comes up or something. And so when you have issues, you need something out there to go, these are the different possibilities. So I just wanted to bring that topic up to see if anybody had any clear-cut sort of treatment plans that they know works on triggers, the emotional abuse, the memories, the feelings, the emotions, the anger, the unforgiveness. What works? So you can say healing is possible if you go in this route using this method. So that was the topic.
Great, thank you. Andy, did you want to start?
I can comment on a lot of what the pastor was saying. And I was just writing down that I think the most helpful thing I did was to desensitize myself from the memories of childhood incest. And
how did you Annie, how did you do that?
How did I do that? A lot of ways. Number one was I found a group of peers who also suffered, and I went to meetings where they told their stories and I told my story. And it was just sharing. It was no cross-talking or anything like that. It was you just told your story and that was it. And listening to other people's stories, I was able to start saying childhood incest. Yeah, I was able to start thinking about this. Yeah, this is the thing that happens.
Okay, so you were
person.
So by telling your story, you were able to discover some areas, about your life that needed some kind of healing, recovery, just by telling your story. Okay, that's good. That's good.
And along with talking about it, I wrote about it. I wrote all the time, not just journaling. I also created a piece, more than one piece of fiction about it. And I even got revenge in one piece of fiction I wrote. That was very healing. I think by writing about it every day, looking at it on paper.
Well, I bet Annie will just get in the better cell area in a moment, and we'll be able to hear what she has to contribute. Pastor Deborah, are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay. I think she just probably hit a bad cell area, so she'll come back on when she's able. I was going to say, I'm happy to share my own experience with what helped. And for me, it was a combination of I started for the first time in my life and in my mid-40s, cognitive behavioral therapy, and I had completely suppressed all of the events that had happened throughout my life. And there were multiple forms of maltreatment and they had been ongoing, some repeated for decades and decades. And I was advised through cognitive behavioral therapy to journal the first thing that came to mind, and I had never done any writing. So I did those two in combination and was able to bring up so many repressed memories. They all came flooding out. But what I was advised through my therapist to do then was to write letters to the members of my family of origin about these events and tell the truth of these events and document them. So basically, instead of suppressing the truth in a loving and caring way and truthful way, write the truth and send it, which is what I did. And that I don't think you're ever completely healed, but I would say that the nightmares, the PTSD episodes, the being really governed by my triggers, all of that started to subside, and I was able to overcome the majority of all of those things I've been experiencing for about 40 years, so that worked for me, and I continue to do the work.
Okay. So you did some writing. You had some What did you do in the cognitive? A lot of people don't know what cognitive behavioral therapy is. What is it?
Basically, it's talk therapy. It's trying a psychologist, PhD. He's also a Lutheran priest. He's a pastor, and he it's talk therapy. And it was you talked about before the show started about how genuine love, finding someone who cares for you, and I wouldn't say that he loves me like a child. It was the first time in my life that a person did not minimize my truth, but listened with compassion. And it was that listening with compassion and allowing me to really be authentic and be myself in bringing up these memories and talking about and verbalizing the truth, and to be met with compassion through this process and to build that trust was a component that allowed me to keep bringing these unspeakable events to life and to actually bring them out and be able to make them, not really govern my life, but to pass through and be a part of my past that I had reconciled.
Okay. That's wonderful because people, the reason is what you're saying is you got to be able to speak about what happened to somebody who will listen with compassion.
Yeah.
And, now, what does compassion mean? So, somebody goes, what? Is it my therapist compassionate? What about my friend? What makes the difference? And how you can determine what is compassion. What is it made up of?
Well, for me, in my experience, to be met with someone who was someone in I wouldn't say a position of authority, but of course, someone who is a professional that you seek out their professional guidance is, and someone who is also a priest is someone who is in a role of someone who coaches, right? Someone who you there's roles, right? Different roles. So for me, it was someone in this life that was within a specific role that I found value in, not minimizing my experience, not diminishing the truth, not defying the truth, not objectifying my experience and my recollection of my experience as being untruthful or unbelievable, or minimizing it by as heinous as the crimes committed against me were. Not to say that, when I say minimize, well, it wasn't that big of a deal, or you're making too much of it, or we don't speak of that. It was, when I say met with compassion, it was all of those things, to be treated with humanity and with understanding and with care and concern, not to be called crazy, right? Not to be invalidated, all of those things, and not to be belittled, not to be, my voice was valued in the fact that what I said was not questioned. I was believed.
Okay.
So
finding somebody who would listen with compassion and is real important. And what we're learning is that a lot of bad things happen to us as kids, and it messes us up. And the child that we were supposed to grow up into and become got destroyed, got delayed in growth, and something else grew. Something else came in. Seeds got planted, and different kinds of fruit and thoughts and attitudes developed. And what we were taught in spirituality is we got to go dig up some roots here of some trees that have grown up from concepts, ideas, feelings. We got to pull those things out. And so spiritual work is a little bit different. Still need that compassionate, caring individual to listen to you than mental health therapy. They listen to you, and, they try to guide the thoughts and deal with what comes up and things like that. But on the whole, so you would recommend having the person get with a professional and do the journaling, right?
Well, I would also mention that this is someone that I felt that I could trust. I think we have a genuine sense of intuition. And, of course, trust, that builds over time. So the more, the trust built, and the more basically it was through being met with compassion, I became more and more comfortable and able to release all of those memories and all the repressed memories. So it was a process.
All right. When you released your memories and your repressions, were you healed? Were they gone? Were they completely out of you, out of your system, never had them? Were they over with, done with? They're released? They're out? You've spoken about it? Are they gone? Or would you say you're healed now? Before you answer, or would that be like if you had some poison in your body and you've got to get the poison out before the healing can occur? Does that make sense?
Yes, but I think that it was the fact that the level of toxicity of the poison, it was a siphoning process. So
so by talking, telling your story, getting out those repressed memories was like having poisonous toxins slowly be released out of your system.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And did you find a point that you finally got all the poison out? After you told your story and you talked and they listened and you were releasing the toxins, the poison, the memories, the feelings. Was there a day when that the therapist or whatever could say, we believe we've got all the poison, out of your system now. Now your system needs, we'll say, when you get the poison out, your system in the natural is still very weak, and it needs rest, and it needs good food, and, sometimes the recovery, if you've had some kind of poison or something, and we'll say maybe like an infection, it takes a while for your body to recover from that sort of attack. So
yes.
Would you say that by telling your story, writing it out, talking with someone, you were releasing toxins, poison, that had been inside of your mind, maybe, and that were connected to your biological body, that then the body could start healing, and your mind could start healing because the poison's out. And you could then start putting in good memories, and you could fill up wherever that poison was, with good things. Is that what you started doing?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I'm doing it slowly is when somebody listens to this, they'll go, I've got to tell somebody my story. I need to write it to a therapist. I need to get those repressed memories out. I need to get those feelings out, cry them out, beat a pillow. I need to have somebody believe me, but that's not the healing yet. That's just the releasing of the poison, the toxins that are in the system. Then I've got to put in good nutrition, we'll call it, water and chicken noodle soup, and my body has to have rest, because if you had any kind of virus or infection, we get that cleared up with antibiotics, but now your body's been through war, and different parts of it have been, affected, and it needs rest, and it needs good nutrition, and maybe you have to slowly start exercising again, and maybe eating again to put the good things back in to rebuild the body back up. So what were some of the good things, I'll say, after you released your story, got the poison out, the repressed memories, what things did you do to bring health back to the body, back to your memories, and rebuild a healthy system?
So I had become, deep. I really, truly dissociated via depersonalization. So my mind and my physical body were completely disconnected. And so I was
let me ask you a question. On that, did you journal your different parts? Do you know their names, what their ages were, who was doing what? Did your therapist have you do that?
Because he didn't feel that on the spectrum that it was that I completely split, but that my sense of interoception had been completely blocked. So, for example, just my mind and my body completely separated. So I couldn't even feel pain. Or if I felt a little bit of pain, I couldn't tell you where it was. I couldn't feel hunger. I couldn't feel full fullness.
Okay.
So
all right. Now, since you've been through that journaling, has all those doors to those dissociative parts and stuff, has that all been opened up now?
Yes.
Okay.
And that
so
was
your mind and your body are back together now.
Yes. And that was done through yoga and mindfulness and meditation.
Okay. Let me stop you.
And through a lot of breath work. And
let me stop you. What did the yoga breath work do for the memories? Did it unlock doors? Did it close doors? Did it refresh? Because see, people listen and they don't know exactly maybe what you did in yoga or breath work.
So
and how that brings, we'll say, healing after the poison is out, the stories are told. Now you're on a recovery mode through yoga and whatever else you did, right?
Yeah.
People need to know, how did that help you? What did it do so they can...
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Just you telling me you did breath work, tells me nothing. So what did it do?
So basically, what I learned after releasing the stories, I was able to sense that my body had been so tense from holding it all in.
Okay.
And so by using the breath work and the stretching and the yoga and the mindfulness, I was able to relax my body from being so tense. This is decades.
Okay, all right.
This is decades. This is 40 years of tenseness.
Okay.
I was finally able to
your body was able to relax, okay.
Relax. Mm-hmm. And even though I had to be able to name and write and bring forth the memories, and I could say what happened, I couldn't feel the emotion that would be appropriate, right? I was flat. I was emotionless until I started the yoga, the mindfulness, and the breathing. And my emotions finally, so what happened when I did those taking the things to take care of myself, my emotions finally came through. My emotions came through after the fact. I cried for the first time. I had emotion for the first time, felt things for the first time. I was able, it was almost like they had been deferred. I was finally, those were all able then to be released, all the emotion that went with the memory. And because I had never had emotion or allowed to when those things happened. So it's almost it happened in arrears, if that makes sense. It happened 40 years later. That was the process that was able to take place.
All right. So being able to have your emotions sort of set free and for you to feel the full range of emotions, you had to get some kind of healing.
Yeah.
Your emotions, had to be healed, okay? See, a lot of times in, people don't know what needs to be fixed. They need to go, well, my emotions, I couldn't feel anything. Okay, my body was, sort of numb. And that didn't appear to be a normal, healthy condition. And so you had to be able to unlock your body, sort of, and bring something under control. Well, it was already under control, but sort of release something to be a part of healing. And I think if child abuse adult victims can realize the emotions have to be healed. The control of the emotions, coming out and bringing the dissociation that you set this over in a compartment has to be healed. Your body's got to have some work done with it. And can help a lot of people because they don't know what's wrong with them. They don't know. And a lot of times your therapists, they don't know where to start. They don't really have. So can you think of anything else that you did to bring in, we'll say one, besides the journaling, to take away the poison, whatever was there blocking you?
I did a lot of hiking. We
hiking?
have national parks. So I did a lot of hiking and a lot of praying. But there's a way to actually, I believe, experience this kind of like meditative state when you're hiking out in the wilderness, and that I was able to actually release a lot of emotion while I was on those hikes. So hiking and movement was a big part of it as well. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the last thing is really finding a group within NAASCA of people that had understood. I was met with compassion by so many members of NAASCA when I came and told. Of course, I came on the show and told my story. that was healing in and of itself. But I was met with a group of people who could understand and walked in some very similar shoes. I had never encountered that before. And so having that, I think, compassion and just shared experience and that understanding, I found a community, and I didn't feel alone, and that helped as well, immensely.
Okay. And, adult survivors and even teenagers, you need some psychotherapy. Well, for what? You need some healing. For what? I'm fine. Whatever kind of thing, Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times, everybody talks about get healing however you can get it. But when you are an advocate, you must be clear about this was my journey. This stuff happened to me. Okay, and with some people you can't talk about it because it's going to trigger them. But then you've got to be able to say, yes, this happened. And when I realized I needed help, my emotions were messed up. My biological body was messed up. My memories were messed up. I had other issues. And I started working area by area. And I know I needed to build new memories. Did you do things to build new memories to replace? How did you deal with your, what kind of words do you say now about what happened to you as a child?
Well, I consider everything from the past a different life, and I put it behind me. And it's almost like I have a new vocabulary, a new life, and I see myself living in two completely different worlds. So I call it. I actually have my own terminology of BR and then AR. Before remembering or bringing forth the repressed memories, and then after remembering. And to me, it's like a BC and an AD. So to me, it's just I don't live in fear. I live in hope, and so I am always looking to the next. What I can add on in life and bring the healing into my own family unit, of my husband and my children. And I think what propels me is I just keep seeing patterns changing and history being rewritten and taking a different course based upon the goals that I have. I don't want the cycle to repeat. So that's I don't know if it's vocabulary, but it's more of an intent. Okay, so you changed your language. Yes. Okay, and I have done that myself. Like if I talk about my childhood, I said, in my other life, and not the person I am now. And I think that's really important too, even to say, how you identify yourself, is real important. And whether you say, I was abused, but I'm healed. I was a victim, but now I'm brand new. And in spirituality, in Christianity at least, we get some wonderful words. We says, hey, forget the past. I'm going to throw it all in the sea of forgetfulness. You forget it. I'm forgetting about it. Don't bring it up to me again. It didn't exist. And it took me a 2-year period to transition from being what I was called Jan to Pastor Deborah. 2 years. And God had to take, and he had to put where I would look at everything from a certain point backwards. That's not me anymore. And I would get tested on it. I would hear thoughts like, why don't you go by the house you grew up? I go, now, wait a minute. I'm Pastor Deborah now. I didn't grow up in that family. I didn't grow up in that house. That's not my mother and father. I'm a new person in Christ. So if I personally go by there on my own will, I bring the old Jan back alive.
And I have been tested with that over and over again. Because in spirituality work, the enemy of healing and hope and love is to keep you in bondage to those memories, those disassociation areas, those blockages, the numbness, keep you there and never get you healed. Never have your words say, I'm healed. Okay? And that kind of thing. So I know what that means. You have to be very mindful about your words, what you say to yourself, what you say to other people, what you write in that process. I can remember years ago I had gotten a virus and it attacked my heart. I'm in the hospital. And they're looking at a heart transplant. But I knew I had a long many years to go, and my choice was I could get up off of that bed of affliction and slowly walk down the hall of the hospital, hanging on to the rails, or I could stay in bed. And I got myself up, and with every step I took, I knew I was getting better and healed. And I think a lot of, like you said, a lot of people are numb in their emotions and they don't know why, or they don't know why they do what they do, or why they're so angry, or, yell at people and stuff. And they may not have recovered, the memories that something happened to them, and that kind of thing. So I think by telling people that you released, you're telling your story, you released, unlocked the doors to the numbness, started feeling again. You did exercises, walking, yoga, whatever, to help get the body under control and your mind and your thinking. See, a lot of people from abuse, they don't have that kind of sort of road that they can go on. Just go get therapy and talk about your problem. And a lot of therapists aren't, they don't deal with your biological body. They may not tell you to, quit drinking alcohol or maybe cut down on the sugar and go take a hike outside. That's just not their training. And if you go to private practitioners or primary care or something, here, just take your antidepressant medication, that should solve the problem. So I'm glad to hear that, and that you tackled it from many different views, So that's good. Has Annie gotten back on the line yet?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's see. I have a list of things that I did to heal myself. Shall I share some of that with you?
Yeah.
Okay, I did supplements, and I don't know if they helped me or not, but my doctor told me to take certain supplements and supposedly help my brain cope better.
Okay, do you understand what? Okay, reason is your brain, your biological brain, is made up of water and sodium and chemical, electrical, nerves and flesh and stuff. And it can get damaged in trauma, and things sort of got too much of something. So that's good, okay? So you're taking supplements. That's good. He's working from that level on your brain. That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. And what else did you do?
I also take medicine as prescribed by a psychotherapist or psychiatrist, I guess it is. Psychiatrist prescribes that, yeah. And I'm pretty sure that has helped me a great deal. Okay. The reason is the psychiatrist, his training is the biological brain and the nervous system. He's a medical doctor. And they believe there's a proper balance to all of our chemical, electrical signals, to our blood, how everything. And when you take psychotropic medication,
the psychiatrist saying is the chemical electrical balance that's in our brain, that the neurons are moving through, that everything is working through, is out of balance. You got too much of something, not enough of something else, something's misfiring, there's not enough potassium, not enough, if you don't get enough water, you dehydrate and you can, your brain has trouble. And so they know that there is a proper chemical electrical balance that the brain has to have in order for all the parts of it and all of what it does to operate correctly and it's at its best. And so that's why they give you the medication to get that brain's chemical that it needs balanced out, corrected, and then they believe once you get there, because sometimes they know if we don't get that straightened out, everything else won't help because we still got some, chemicals in there, or not enough. Your hormones aren't balanced. You've got too much of something, not enough of something else. We got things not running smoothly. So that's their belief, is we can get that balanced system. It's like we all, you got to have so much water a day, so much carbohydrates, because just to blink your eyes, it takes energy. So you need carbohydrates, but your things are built, the muscles, with protein, but your bones need calcium. So I read a book, it was really wonderful. It's called The 3-Pound Universe. And it's nothing except about the brain. And that's where all the memories are stored, all the thoughts and ideas, And we see when it starts getting even what they call damage, we see the Alzheimer's, or people start having memory problems, and their short-term memory's not very good, but their long-term memory's good. And so I'm glad you did that. Okay, what else did you do, Miss Annie?
One thing that I do today still a lot is aromatherapy. I find that when I light scents around my house, I feel happy. It makes me feel happy.
Okay. What you're doing is you're breathing in through your nose, right? Aroma. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it goes into your body, your nose, up into your brain. It's actually a drug changing your brain chemistry. And it's the same way if you eat food. It's a drug. It changes the chemistry of your body. So you're, from the outside, you are saying, you're putting things into your system, just like they do cocaine, anything else. It gets in the bloodstream, gets to the brain, and whatever it does in there, certain chemicals and endorphins and stuff get kicked on, and Annie feels happy. So
works
that's
for
okay.
me.
That works for you, huh? Okay. Well, one of the things by watching these Chinese historical dramas, they're up late, is how traumatic many of these children's, childhoods were. Sold into slavery, murder, parents murdered, just horrible violence, all kinds of horrible stuff happened to them. And the results, as you saw, was anger and hate, and jealousy and envy, and disassociation, multiple personalities, and just a multitude of we'll call it fruit that came out of that tree. And what it took was some loving people, real genuine, like what Penelope said, people filled with compassion and able to listen to their story and believe in them and love them and be friends with, and that seemed to make a difference. And all that hurt and anger and stuff started dissipating, like what Penelope said she released the toxins and the poison. Because when you get abused like most people have, the memories are horrible. They're like a virus, a bacteria that just, won't go away. And believe it or not, the disassociation and locking and becoming numb is almost a protection. Because for a child, it doesn't understand what's going on, all the chemicals being released in the brain, what is happening, the fear, the torment, the violations. It's a form of protection for the child to just disassociate, and the memories are locked away because it's a way to them to live, that kind of thing. Anybody else? You got anybody else that wants to ask a question?
Well, I'm just curious as to which herbs were helpful in terms of aromatherapy.
Annie would have to answer that because I don't do aromatherapy.
I'd have to say my favorite are cinnamon and clove. I think they smell homey. I also like peppermint a lot. That smells very happy to me.
Put these in diffusers, or do you have candles, or how do you,
I usually buy the concentrated oil, and I put it in a diffuser with the little candle underneath it.
Oh, great.
And that's how I do.
And then also you mentioned certain vitamins. Do you mind I know Pastor Deborah sort of, expanded on that, but would you mind sharing some of if you remember some of the vitamins that were recommended for you?
Yes, the vitamin E that comes in fish oil, apparently studies have been done that show that it can reverse depression if you get enough. I'm not sure how many milligrams it is. I guess you could look in the internet and you could find the study that they did. But I don't think it was a lot. I think it was like 1,000 milligrams a day. And it takes care of your brain in a way that heals depression. And I'm not a scientist. I don't really know how. But that was one. I take CoQ10 also for the brain.
Isn't that amazing that through your experiences you're discovering the biological things that we need to do to help our brain? And the brain is the place where the memories are stored, the emotions. We have our sight, our hearing, where we think. We have concepts. Our subconscious is in there, and that's usually, Freud explained it this way. We have a consciousness that's directly connected to our biological body. And we have this unconscious, a subconscious, where we kind of think to ourselves. We have our own feelings, You could sit there and you could have private thoughts and say something else with your words to somebody. That subconscious is there, but yet there's a conscious part and so the psychiatrist is well aware. He's looking at it from a medical viewpoint. The brain's like an organ, a heart or something, and it can get damaged. It can get viruses, infections, bacteria. It can have, blood leaks. It can have not enough water, not enough potassium or sodium. It is affected, as we know, when we smell food. The aromas go up from food into our brain, and, it can change our appetites. It can release hormones. So the psychiatrist realizes there's a proper balance of everything that's supposed to be in the brain. How much water, blood, like you said, vitamins, and what's not, and so they're looking at it that way. And then they know if they can get that sort of balanced out chemical correctly, then the brain can do a lot of work easier. It can store memories correctly, or, get rid of them. It can bring more control to the body, and that kind of thing. So a lot of people don't realize that some people that have been abused might be vitamin deficient, and they don't even get enough vitamin C or enough water, and so their whole system, their body, and even the brain chemistry is out of whack, And if you throw any kind of thing like, say, diabetes, which is related to your sugar, so there is a combination of the biological body that is affected by trauma in childhood, and just what happens to the brain during these, intense abusive time, what's happening in the brain, and what kind of scars or damage happens, to the small developing brain, and that kind of thing. And some people study memories, and they study how they're, all of us, some of us, we get bits and pieces, of our childhood. We don't remember, the day we were born, and we don't remember our diaper days, and a lot of stuff, and some of us don't start really remembering our life till we're maybe 2 or 3, just it doesn't stay. And times we need to know the areas, like what Penelope was saying. She worked on several areas, and that was very helpful to her. So what would be some other areas that you think an adult survivor of child abuse, besides brain, the memories, the triggers, might need the emotions? I think Penelope said her emotions were numb, that need to be healed.
How about like OCD, repetitive thoughts? Okay.
What do you think? All right, repetitive thoughts. Okay. What it would? How can I? Let's see. It would be like if you. The brain is like a machine. Okay. It's finely tuned. It has an optimal performance. It needs like a car. It needs spark plugs. It's got to have some energy. Got to have the right balance of chemicals, things like that. And what happened with obsessive thoughts is it's like something is stuck, okay, and they just can't get loose. How would you say, if you had one, did you get healed from it? What did you do to break that control or that pattern?
One thing that helped me was saying a mantra, so that the thought would go out of my head and the mantra would be in there instead. Okay, so you replaced a thought that was coming and irritating you with another thought. You did a replacement. Yes. Okay. All right. Anything else you can think of when those words would come and they kept coming, and did you do anything else? Sometimes I talk about the words I'm hearing with my friends, and they say, well, don't listen to them because they're lying to you, and that kind of thing. If my words are telling me how bad I am, that kind of
now who's
kind of words.
Now, is that Annie? Those words that you're hearing, is that you talking to you? Who's talking?
Yeah.
Who's saying the words? Okay.
Me.
It's you. Me. That subconscious you is talking, speaking to you. Is that correct? Because you're not really
Yeah.
talking out of your mouth to another person, are you?
No. No.
So this is all internally going on. Okay? So
Yes. Mm-hmm.
okay? And a lot of people, they're afraid if they say, I'm hearing this voice, sounds like me. And the therapist will look at you and go, okay, you got some, okay, we need some here. People don't realize our subconscious is a person. It's the real you. Your 5 senses are connected to your brain. It is how that subconscious person can interact with the natural world. But there's a person in there, the subconscious. This is what Freud told us. You have thoughts, ideas, it gets traumatized, it's a person. It's stuck in childhood, doesn't grow up. It has the ability to create others, other voices, and that's what happens. Like you even hear about suicide people. They have these thoughts about just go ahead and kill yourself. You'll be better off, and and at the same time, is that them talking? Well, that's Freud, okay? Now, in psychiatry, a lot of times they don't know where those voices are coming from. They don't know. They don't know if, in some psychologists would go, oh, that's another part of you. That's your disassociative part of you. That's your guilt or something like that. So you had to learn not to listen to whatever you were thinking or what you were hearing and replace it with other words, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you have to do that as often now as you used to?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. I don't hear those awful things about myself all the time like I used to. It's actually pretty rare now.
Okay. Do you know how long it took you to keep not listening to those voices?
Oh. Well, I have been working on it actively, on being a survivor, for 17 years.
Okay.
So somewhere in that time. I'm not sure exactly where.
Okay. Well, this is just a lot of people believe it. They have those voices also. Okay. And they need to know, like what you did. You've got to counteract them, and you have to speak different words. So you had what did you say to yourself? What was the mantra that you used? Did you have several of them?
I have one, and it's this, and I read it somewhere. I didn't make it up, but I don't know who it belongs to. But this is it. I am good. I am happy. I am free from pain.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to take you into the Bible. In Proverbs, Solomon tells us, as you think in your heart, that means as you listen inside, so you are. Okay? So if you listen to those words, okay, even if you were saying them, you're thinking them, okay, and you don't counteract them with something else, then that's what you are, whatever you're hearing. But you said, no. I am going to be something else. I'm going to change what I'm hearing, what I'm thinking. Therefore, when I change it, I am this new thing, not what I'm hearing. And a lot of people don't understand that. I think we used to, I don't know, when we would get in trouble years ago, our teachers would say, I want you to write this sentence down 100 times or something. trying to do repetition with us, get us to think on something else, constantly change it. When I went through my 2-year transition, and even now, I'll have thoughts. I'm in my bed, and I will feel depressed, angry, something. The world is a mess out there. And my soul will just be in a mess. And my spirit now, because I'm a pastor, will speak internally to my soul and say, you aren't going to sit there and have a pity party. You aren't going to sit there and think that and feel that and mope and grope about that stuff. You, soul, are coming with me, spirit. We're going to go into the presence of God. We're going into His Word, where He says, something. We're going to go think on that. We're going to believe on that. We're going to put the Word before you. You're not going to sit there. And I got that from King David. There was some day, his family was trying to kill him, take over the throne. It was a mess. And his soul, that's that conscious, subconscious part of us, got very downcast, depressed. Everybody's trying to kill him, chase him, kill. And he said, and here's what he said. He said, "Oh, my soul, why are you so downcast today? Let's go up to the mountain of God." This was his spirit talking to his soul, saying, "We ain't going to sit here in this mess. I understand why you're depressed. They're trying to kill you. Okay, the family's a mess, but we ain't going to sit here in this stuff. We, together, you and I, are going to go up in our thoughts, in our prayers, whatever, into the presence of God." He had to do that internal work with himself. I saw that years ago, and there's some days what's going on in the world and everything, it's just not nice. And you do get angry and you get upset and everything. And you can't let yourself, your soul, be in control and sit in that. That's what you were saying. You spoke different words to yourself. And then did those words that were negative slowly end in your life?
They're not completely gone. As I said, I got hit with some today pretty hard, but then I was able to share that with a friend, and she reminded me that none of those things I said were true. And so that I felt a lot better. But in general, I don't get that. Not even every day. I would say a week could go by and I wouldn't get any of that negative self-talk that I used to.
And since, even in therapy, when you're told, the therapist says, we need to think of some new self-talk, okay? Positive affirmations, meditations. You need to have some words that when you start feeling this way, and you counteract what you're thinking or feeling with something else. And that's a battle. That is warfare inside. A lot of therapists, they're more listeners. They want to, listen to what you have to say and try to help you figure it out, and that's good too. But a lot of them don't give you a lot of strategies because you spend most of your time away from the therapist. And so what you did, Annie, is excellent because you are working on the inside of you, and you are doing what we would call spiritual warfare. You are battling the thoughts that are trying to control your life, but they are, in your subconscious. And so that part of you that got hurt, victimized, is wanting to stay in control, and it's wanting to beat you up and, continue the abuse and the torment. And you started stopping that by having that mantra. And that's a good thing to do. So I hope other people start doing that also. Anybody want to talk? You're quite welcome. I can tell you, once I saw that King David had to do that with himself and his soul, because, since I believe our spirit and our soul are two different people, two different things, the spirit is supposed to be getting all of its information from God, who it is, what God says about itself and that, then pass that along to its helpmate, the soul. And the soul then supposed to get transformed into what it was supposed to always be, a helper to the spirit out in the natural world. Because the soul's connected to the biological body. The spirit isn't. So what happens is that system gets all messed up in abuse. The soul is the king, sort of. And its feelings, its thoughts, everything rules the roost and through the physical body. And so then those two cause the little spirit to kind of sink down and, you just take whatever you get. So that's wonderful. That was a good thing. Can you think of anything else either one of you have done to help, say, in an area to bring healing that worked?
Well, this is Penelope, along the lines of what Annie had shared. The part of the healing process was to recognize that I had learned through what was considered, normal, and this was a pattern in the family of origin, a lot of negative self-talk and not, I didn't even know what the concept of self-love was. There was constant self-denigration displayed in the home. And so part of the process of when I went through really the healing process was also to realize, coming aware, as Annie had mentioned, of just how often I was really self-abusing myself by the things that I said to myself, the things that I called myself. And so becoming aware of that and realizing that I could actually, with the transformation of going from, being someone who was abused in the past to being, a different person who had changed the pattern in the future, was also to change the pattern of my internal thinking about myself. And I how to teach myself how to love myself and to change that vocabulary.
That's correct. And from a pastor's side, the inside you that needed to change, your thoughts and stuff, that knowledge, those words, that love comes from God to the spirit. And the spirit tells the soul, we are loved by God. You are valuable. He loves you. That old you, it's gone away. It's been thrown away into the sea of forgetfulness. Don't you think on that anymore. Come on. We're going into his presence. And the spirit then becomes the instigator, the leader, the guide of the healing, releases all the goodness and the healing and the mercy and everything it has received from God, from the Word, to the soul. And when the Spirit gets enough of that good stuff from God, okay, it just overflows. And then the soul, as you read in the Bible, the soul must be transformed. That means whatever it is, the condition, we must transform it. Because it's hurt, it's wounded, it's broken, it's frightened, it's numb, it's not trusting, it's got all kinds of bad things growing in it, and viruses and, all kinds of ick. And it really cannot heal itself. The biological body can't do anything except take in what? Air and water and food. Okay? That's about it. And respond to pain or pleasure. But the body is the outlet that the soul uses and needs to contact the natural world. And the soul and the body are one. So when the soul wants to feel pleasurable, it will seek sex, food, aromatherapy, soft touch, maybe music. Then the soul is taken care of. So what happens is when I got into spirituality and pastoring, I worked with the spirit part. And I had to love the spirit with God's love. Then I would have to their own soul. And I had this one precious lady that I worked with named Amanda. Her physical body got out of the car and went to a 7-Eleven, but her spirit came back to me and said, if she keeps doing that other part of her subconscious and her body, keep doing what she's doing, drugs, alcohol, sex, homelessness, we're going to die, aren't we? This was her spirit. I go, yes, you are. You know, it was not a good life. And she goes, what do I do? This is the spirit talking to me. I said, honey, you, the spirit, have got to speak up to yourself, that other part of you. You're not going to do that anymore. And some people would say, I just had a conscious moment. A thought just came to me. I just remembered. Something woke me up in the middle of the night to, leave or something. That's usually the spirit getting words to the soul. And I said, honey, you're going to have to talk to yourself. That other part of you? Look. And her spirit said to me, if I tell her to stop doing what she's doing, I, the spirit, will get in trouble. Now, can you imagine? Here I am trying to help somebody. I got 3 parts working, but the spirit has to get strong. And it must do like King David said, we ain't going to think that. That's not who you are anymore. We're not going to live in that muck. We're coming out of that. Yeah, I know it was bad. I know it was bad. But we're going to think on this now. Okay? We are loved now by God. We have a husband, a children. We're needed. He doesn't treat me. We're going to think on that. So there is a deep inner work on, and if it stays, that's the proper sort of system. In therapy, they're just working with the soul, but it can get a lot of healing, and it can get a lot of direction, release, and then like even Annie said, you feel like, hey, I got to have some correct supplements and vitamins and nourishment. Maybe I need to drink another bottle of water. Not getting enough water or something like that. And so I wanted to just bring up that healing is real important. It is there. To me, if we can heal cancer, right, we can get people to the moon and back. We should be able, with all these bright people, bring healing to people who've been abused emotionally and sexually and physically. It just can't be that difficult. What do you think?
I agree. It's possible. It's possible, but it is work. I think it needs to be. It's work, but it's worthwhile work.
Mhm. Well, like I said, if you had cancer, it's a lot of work getting healed. Oh my goodness! Some of it, you lose your hair, get dialysis. It's a lot of work getting that cancer killed inside your physical body. And so, and I don't think, not the mental health world, but just society as a whole, they don't look at mental health issues or sexual abuse issues. You can't see it like you can see, cancer with an X-ray. And it's a topic that a lot of people don't, just straighten up, think right, And it's a topic, if you talk to a child development specialist, he'll tell you it will mess up a child in development and the brain and everything else when it happens at that age. And then you expect them to go into school and learn how to read and write and do math, and it ain't going to happen. Okay? Just not going to happen. So you only got about 9 minutes left, and I will be quiet, and you guys can close it up.
Well, thank you, Pastor Deborah. It's just been a great show, and thank you so much for, developing a topic tonight that is very, very, so very important to our mission statement and to our own personal recovery paths, and for not only Annie and myself, but for so many of the topics that have been brought up and experiences brought up by our NAASCA family members and those who listen to the shows live and to the archives. So I just wish to thank you, because shows like these that really serve as healing tools and information and a resource for those who are in different phases of their recovery. So your expertise and your passion and your experience and your counsel, thank you so much for all that you contribute during the shows into NAASCA as a NAASCA family member. So I really want to thank you for what you bring as a survivor professional to these shows. And I also wish to thank Annie, because I really, really enjoy doing the shows with Annie, and she always brings so much of her own experience and willingness to share. And I've learned so much from Annie as well. And I really want to express my gratitude for my co-host Annie and just say thank you. I wish to thank
you
all. You're welcome. I wish to thank everybody else involved with NAASCA. There's so much involved that our NAASCA board, and most specifically Bill Murray, the founder and president of NAASCA, does as a show's producer to facilitate having 5 shows on a week. They are Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We have a special guest who comes to tell their story, which is a great, as we discussed tonight, healing modality to share your experience with in a platform where you are accepted and greeted by fellow NAASCA family members who have compassion and can understand. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we have the Survivor Professional Nights, which is the mic forum. There's so much work that goes into procuring guests and Survivor professionals for these shows, and also scheduling us, the host. So if you wish to volunteer with NAASCA, wish to know anything else in general about NAASCA and NAASCA's offerings, even just the current show schedule and other group recovery meetings we have every week, please go onto our website, which is www.naasca, which is NAASCA.org. And there's so much information on our website. It is a one-stop shop for anyone anywhere in the world who wants to know what's going on in terms of advocacy, events for child abuse, trauma, intervention, prevention, recovery, as well as ambassadors for each area of the world. NAASCA is a global organization, as well as any information. There are articles, there are books that all different types of books that have been self-published by some of our NAASCA family members, or they are also tools that are used to help in serving as different modalities for healing. So there are so many different resources on the NAASCA website that we encourage and urge you to go on and take some time and look around at the website. Also, you will find our board, the NAASCA board of directors, as well as there are contacts, so you are never alone. We have NAASCA family members who are willing and have given out their personal information. So if you need to talk to someone at any time, there are people to contact and to reach out to. You are never alone wherever you are in your healing journey. So I encourage you again to go on the NAASCA website. And lastly, we are a fully nonprofit 501c3 organization. We rely on the donations of our members. So no amount is too small. Even a few dollars help. On the NAASCA website, there is a PayPal link at the very bottom of the home page, of the front page of the website, where you can donate via PayPal to NAASCA, and we appreciate every single donation that we receive. So we thank you for your continued support to NAASCA. Again, I wish to thank Pastor Deborah Schleich, who has been a long time a NAASCA family member. We appreciate her contribution to NAASCA and on these shows, and look forward to many, many more with her in the future. And I wish to thank my co-host, Annie. I'd like to let you know that this is NAASCA scan number 3082. So within 30 minutes, this show will be archived and on our website, and you can just look up scan number 3082 under current schedule under tonight's date, and the show will have been recorded and the archive ready for listening. So that is another offering of NAASCA. We have done over almost 4,000 shows to date. Most are archived and have used as learning and recovery tools. So please go and take a listen. There are many, many, many to choose from, obviously. So with that, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in this evening. I wish to please, as I always like to sign off, I wish to ask. We are all adults, and we are all responsible citizens of this world. And as adults, we have collectively enough eyes and ears to keep every single child on this planet safe. So if you see something, if you hear something, please say something. It is our moral responsibility to do so. So with that, I thank you, and I remind you to tune in tomorrow night for special guest night. It is 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The number is 646-595-2118. That is the same number for all of our NAASCA Stop Child Abuse Now talk radio shows. So please, every night, Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 646-595-2118. I wish to thank you and wish you all a very good night.
I'll know tomorrow, 'cause that dawn will come. You are forgotten after all that you've done. I know tomorrow, that dawn will come.
Blog Talk Radio.